Anyways, so I think that most of you, some of you may not, would agree with this statement that we are better off together. You and I are better off with people in our lives. As far as you are, I think you'll agree with it. You are better off with your partner or with your spouse than without. You're better off with your family than without. Some of you are chuckling already, so you're better off with your family than without. You're better off with your friends than without friends. You're better off with people than without people. And you're better off with faith than without faith. But I get that, maybe not all of you agree with that, but all of you, even if you do agree with that, will have at least wrestled with the flip side of that. If you have been, if you're in a committed relationship, or if you are married and been in it for a period of time, you will have wrestled with, does my spouse, are they even interested in me? Are they interested in what I want, what I think? All they do is talk, and they don't listen to what it is that I have to say. Are they actually interested in me? Or you've wrestled with does my family care about me, or is it just all about them? My friends, I'm not sure if they could give a flying red rib about me. Or people, my gosh, I'm not sure if they're worth the effort. They give me, they're frustrating. They give me a migraine. They're struggling. Or faith. I thought I'd get faith and life would become simpler, but if anything, I'm not sure if it hasn't made things more complicated. And I think that regardless of whether you agreed with the first statement, you will have at some point come to terms or had a wrestling match with the second statement. I know I have. I have spent considerable seasons where I'm not sure if Sage, she's my wife, for those of you that don't know, I don't know if she's interested in me. I get that she likes me because she's still with me, I think. But I'm not sure if she's interested in hearing me out. Or my family, I think they're just interested in their own life. My friends, they never ring me. I always have to ring them. I always have to pursue them. And sometimes, my gosh, I've been a Christian for a long time, but man, sometimes it feels like me choosing to be Christians made everything more complicated, and I thought it was going to get less complicated, but it's gone the opposite way. And these are some real things that I've had to wrestle out, and I imagine that you have wrestled with as well. But the reality is, whether you struggle with it or not, we are better together. Ecclesiastes puts it this way. It says, two people, and it gets read at plenty of weddings, two people are better off than one, for they can do this. They can help each other succeed. And in fact, what they're saying is, we are better together because we can help each other succeed. Because if one person falls, the other one can do this. It can reach out and help. We are starting and opening a new sermon series this morning titled just that, Better Together, with the plan over these next 3 weeks to bring some perhaps nuance and some questions, or not necessarily questions, some answers to some of those wrestlings that we have when it comes to relationships. Not talking about romantic relationships, just relationships in general. Because relationships in general at different seasons of our lives leave us thinking are they interested? Do they like me? Do they care? Are they even concerned about me? Is faith even more complicated than it's supposed to be? These are the things that we wrestle with. And so this is what I believe, that over the next 4 weeks, this being the first week, that we're going to try and bring some resolve to some of those wrestlings that I have. And if I have them, I'm pretty sure that you've had them. You may not have them at the minute, maybe you do, but you've had them at some point, and you're going to have them again at some point. So we're going to take 4 weeks to look at this and to tease this out. Why are we better together? But to open with and to start with, I think I probably need to share with you guys the backstory of where this series came from. And this kind of started about 2 years ago. And this hasn't been me preparing this series for 2 years. It hasn't been that at all. But the wrestling, the teasing, the discovery of this started about 2 years ago, just as we were exiting the COVID craziness. It's hard to believe that was 2 years ago. Hard to believe it was 4 years ago. We're in the peak of it. That seems like a lifetime ago. But nonetheless, about 2 years ago, I felt God starting to stir something within my heart. And what he was stirring with as a church was that he was stirring this idea that he was calling, or he's asking us to change what our mission read as, or to change our mission as a church. Not because our mission was bad, not because our mission was off, not because our mission was ungodly, unbiblical, but because it wasn't really conveying the heart of what God was asking us to do on a week-to-week, day-to-day, consistent basis as a church. And I get for you visitors that you're sitting here and like, I've come to a church for a commissioning service and they're talking about their mission. Like, what's this got to do with me? I promise you this, that you'll be able to walk away today, even if you never come back to this church and you go to your other church, that you'll be able to take everything that it is that we say, and if you apply it, you will benefit your church and your community and your people. And so I had this wrestling match that I was going through with, where I felt God stirring something that you guys need to change what your mission is as a church. I didn't know what to do with it, and especially because we're coming out of the nightmare that what we'd just been in, so I shelved it and I don't want to talk to you. That was a joke. About that, God. But anyway, see, the stirring kept coming back over and over again. And when it got to last year, I sat down with the leadership team and I shared with them, started with the board, this is what I sense that God's talking to me about and talking to us about. And the board agreed. So we sat down as a leadership team, a handful of us, and worked this out, teased this out, prayed about it, and came up with like this worded thing as far as a reworded version of what our mission is as a church moving forward and how we are going to be as individuals, boots on the ground, trying to accomplish our vision or working towards accomplishing our vision, which is creating this church where people outside the church discover the faith that the church talks about. And so the thing that we teased out, and I'll get to what it is and the launching of it and the unveiling of it in a second. But as we're working through it, there's a few things that we felt that God was talking to us about as far as like what we wanted to be reaching and hitting, because it's easy to create a mission statement about everything and about nothing at the same time. And so we wanted to have this mission statement that highlighted this theme that we were better together. And that we needed not just the church as a corporate, but we needed individuals in our lives, because we are better with people in our lives than without people in our lives. Even if you are an introvert, you are better with people in your lives than without. And so some of the things that we looked at and we teased out was as far as we want to speak to a couple of things. And so there's something that I share every prayer meeting that we have here at Epicentre Church before the service, and that basically says this, that people don't leave church because they're disinterested, they leave because they're disconnected. People don't leave church because they're disinterested in what the church is talking about, what's happening. They leave because they become disconnected. That is true for this church, that is true for your church. They leave because they're disconnected. Hence, we are better together. You are better with the people in your lives than without. They are better with you in their lives than without. People don't walk away from faith, leave faith, become disinterested in faith because they're disinterested, is because they become disconnected with the people in the faith. And so we wanted to highlight that we need to be in people's lives because we are better together. The other thought that we had was that we believe this, that we believe as a church, and I'm convinced of this as an individual, that faith is not a destination, faith is a journey. Yeah. I don't just arrive at this position of faith. It is a journey that I'll never stop growing on, that I'll never stop going on, that I'll never stop discovering who God is, who Jesus is, what he means to me, what he wants from me, what he wants for me, what the Bible has to say to me. I'll never stop the discovery process. And so we wanted a mission that wrestled with that and teased that out, and that led us with this idea that faith isn't a destination where I can hit a tick box as far as they have arrived. Because this is what we so often do. That they've put their hand up and they've accepted Jesus, or they're attending a small group, so tick box, that's good. They're reading the Bible, tick box, that must be fantastic. They're praying, that's tick box. They're serving, that's a tick box. They're giving, that's a tick box. And so therefore they must be getting discipled. Faith isn't this destination that we just arrive at. Faith is a journey. And guess what? If you've been a Christian for 30 years, you're growing in the journey. If this is day one of your faith journey, you're growing in the journey. And so we wanted something that reminded us that we need people in our lives, and we need to be in people's lives because it is not a tick box like arrival point. It is a growing destination. I need people in my life to help grow me. You need people in your life to help grow you. Hence, we are better. What? We are better? We are better get it together. If you're a part of this church, you are better with us together. If you're a part of another church, you are better together with the other body of believers, the believers that you fellowship with and you say your home church, whatever it is, we are better together. No one grows in their relationship with Jesus in a vacuum. We grow together. We are better together. The third thing that we wanted to tease out is that churches are famous for this idea of expecting people to believe, then behave before they belong, all the while saying that they are welcome, all the while saying that everyone belongs, that everyone is welcome. And it looks like this. We do this in our more conservative type churches. Is no, you can't take communion because you haven't been baptized. You can't do this because you can't serve in that area. You can't do that because you don't believe in a 7-day creation. You can't do this because you're sleeping with your partner. You can't do that because you're same-sex attracted. You can't. We put all these rules and regulations in front of people. We put all these rules and regulations in front of people, and we end up doing this. We end up deciding or suggesting or at least leading people in a way that kind of says to them that discipleship, leading them in a growing relationship with Jesus, is all about behavioral management or behavior modification. The reality is it's not. Faith in Jesus is not about behavior modification. Behavior modification is the fruit of a good and healthy relationship with Jesus. It's not the precursor to that relationship with Jesus. But we're famous as churches for making it the precursor to a relationship with the church and therefore a precursor to a relationship with Jesus. People will not feel seen by God until they feel noticed by God's people. And when all we do is focus and notice what is wrong with them, we don't give them the opportunity to say, God actually loves me. I get with some of the stuff that I just said, there's a whole lot of nuance and wrestling to come out of that. But the idea is this, that we're meant to accept people where they're at. Doesn't mean we agree with where they're at, but we accept them where they're at. And we say, you know what, if you want to belong here, you belong here. So the statement for us as a church, if someone, regardless of their lifestyle, their background, if someone has a heart for the church and the people in the church, they belong here, period. Period. And so we wanted to have something that kind of talked to all of that because people don't leave because they're disinterested, because they're disconnected. We are better off together. People, it's not a destination, it's a journey. We are better together. We need to be connecting with people and helping them feel like they belong to the kingdom of God, because how many of you realize this, that everything is warring at them, especially the enemy, to say that you don't belong there. We are better together. And so we wanted to tease this out and wrestle this out and come to this idea of what it was that we were wanting to do on a consistent week-to-week, day-to-day basis. That it's not just the church doing, but something that you can do yourselves. You can do yourself. So this is what we launched, and this is what we are launching to you guys this morning, that we have reworded as our mission as a church. And that simply is this, that we are leading people in a growing relationship with Jesus. And growing being the key word. Because I haven't arrived. And you haven't arrived. That we are leading people in a growing relationship with Jesus. It is constantly growing. If you've been a Christian for 30 years, more or less, or day one, you are growing in your relationship with Jesus. None of us have arrived at the pinnacle of faith. We are growing. We are continuing to grow. We are continuing to learn. We are continuing to discover. We are continuing to connect with the relationship that we all believe that we were born to engage with, the relationship that we sung about when death was arrested and my life began. That is the journey of life. And so the question they might be asking is, well, that's, fantastic. So how are we going to do that? And how do we lead people in a growing relationship with Jesus? What are we going to put in place to do that? And I think that is a fantastic question. And it's really complicated. So I've got to take a whole lot of time to try and unpack this. So if you've got your notes, notepads and pens, I suggest you bring them out because you're going to have to read over this 100 times to understand what it is that I'm talking about, because it's deep. It's really, really deep. It's really hard. Are you ready? Are you ready? Drum roll, someone. It is simply this. It is do life with people. How do you lead people in a growing relationship with Jesus? You do life with them. You connect with them. You engage with them. You do life with them. What we've done as churches, old churches, this church, old churches, your church, old churches, we prioritize discipleship as far as they've got to do this course, this Bible study, we've got to study this, we've got to do that, and we major on the courses. We major on the Bible study, and we forget that we're meant to do life with them. I love what Jesus did. I love how Jesus did it. He connected with people and said, hey, I want you to just come and I want you to follow me, and we're just going to walk around. We're going to go to this village. We're going to go to that village. We're going to go to this party. Everyone's going to get upset with us because no one likes the people of that party, but we're going to go there. And hang on, let's talk about all these rocks. You see these rocks? These are the cornerstones and that sort of thing. Hey, let me tell you a story about all these rocks. In 3 days' time, they're going to crumble and then they're going to be rebuilt back together. And he does life with them. And as he's doing life with them, I'm sorry for the 100 words at once. As he's doing life with them, he gets to encourage them. He gets to school them. He gets to talk to them about God. And so we get to do just the same. We get to do life with people, leading people in a growing relationship with Jesus. It definitely looks like small groups. It definitely looks like all that, but that is second to doing life with people. Second to doing life with people. Doing life with people, I made it simple. I made it easy. I think it looks like this. Doing life with people is noticing what no one else sees. Doing life with people is noticing what no one else sees. And I bet you what's the difference between noticing and seeing? Aren't they the same thing? It's got to do with the eyes, and I'm playing on words. Noticing what no one else sees. Perhaps the difference is that all of us see maybe the same thing generally, but the noticing is going a step further and doing something about it. I bet you that some of you have turned up here this morning and seen that someone they just seem off. They seem a bit low. They seem a bit depressed. The countenance is down. Something's not right. You might have seen someone yesterday that it was something like that. And so many of us see it, but how many of us notice it enough to ask the next question? How can I help? How can I pray? What's going on? How many of us do something deliberate to inject ourselves in there and say, hey, I want to do life with you? The truth is this, loving people, how Jesus did, is simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy because it requires us, first and foremost, to be present in people's lives. So Jesus, in Luke's description of Jesus' life and ministry, and so for those of you that don't know who Luke is, Luke was employed by this Roman official named Theophilus to go and search out and interview eyewitness account holders of what took place in Jesus' life and ministry. And he comes back with this report of what happened. And so Luke records this happening when Jesus went and called his first followers, his first disciples. They were just Joe Blows. They were fishermen. They weren't anything special. They were fishermen. It says this in Luke chapter 5. It says, one day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he sees some things. He's walking along and he's preaching. There's a crowd of people there and he's sharing with them. He's declaring things to them. And he sees some fishermen there and he noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and they were washing their nets. And so he notices these couple of boats, and there's a handful of people in these boats, and one of them's called Simon, who gets his name changed to being Peter later on in Jesus' ministry. And Jesus notices them there, and because he's trying to communicate to people, so he's like, I need you to push me out. Push me out I'll get in the boat. He gets in the boat and then launch me out into the lake so I can communicate. And simply he does that because the best way to project your voice is across water. If there's a body of water, you climb into the water and the water carries your voice. And so it's like, hey, push me out there. And he starts sharing and talking. And I bet you Peter's like, or Simon at this point, his name's still Simon's like, I just want to go to bed. I just want to go to bed. You know that person that turns up when you're about to knock off and decides that we're about to start another project. That's Jesus. And this is another project. He turns up at the last minute, like, we're washing our nets, it's been a bad night, we're about to go home. He turns up, he's like, I want you to push me out there. Oh, flipping another project. I just want to go to sleep. It's been a bad night. It's been a really bad night. And so Jesus asked him to do that, and they send him out, as far as they send him out into the thing. They're bubbling in the water. They're probably, like some of you do, struggling to stay awake in church. He was probably struggling to stay awake during Jesus' message, which is fair enough. You've been out fishing all night, you're going to want to sleep. That's his sleep time. And so he's probably struggling to stay awake, but nonetheless, they listen to everything that Jesus has to say. And then Jesus ends up, he says to them, after he's finished speaking, he's like, all right, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go over there, throw your nets in, and we'll start fishing. They're like, dude, Jesus, master, person, no. Like, we've been fishing all night. And Jesus is like, I want you to throw your nets in. And you can kind of see it from their point of view, and this is me adding into the story a little bit. They're probably thinking, like, this guy, I'm pretty sure grew up as a carpenter. He's not a fisherman. He's a carpenter. He knows nothing about fishing. Why is he telling us to, and like, Jesus, you don't get it. Like, the fish are off the bite. The schools have moved. We've got to work out where they are. We've got to do some trawling. We've got to nut this out. Like, they're just not there. Jesus, you don't get fishing. He's like, you're a carpenter. You don't get fishing. And he's like, I want you to throw your nets out. And so Simon Peter is like, you know what? We've worked hard all last night, and we didn't catch a thing. We didn't catch anything at all. Nothing at all. But, he says, but if you say so, I'll let down the nets again. And he did. And this time, it says that the nets were so full of fish that they had to call for help. What I find fascinating about this story is I wonder how many people on that shoreline saw that there was fishermen, saw that these people were fishermen, saw that these people were washing their nets, but that was it. Jesus saw that they were fishermen. He saw that they were boat owners. He saw that they were washing their nets, and he saw that there were empty baskets. And this is what he did. I think Jesus noticed that meant probably no income today. He noticed that probably meant bills are going to struggle to get paid. He noticed that the family maybe went a little bit hungry today or this week. He noticed that is just hard. And so he deliberately did something. He's like, I want you to go and do something different. I want you to throw your nets down. I don't know what you would have done, but I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't have done that. Because I'm pretty convinced that I would be preoccupied with everything that it was that I had to do, communicate. Like, I'm there to communicate. If I put myself in Jesus' shoes, I'm there to communicate a sermon, a message. I'm going to work on how do I communicate this really well. Like, there's that person over there, and they're like this. How do I get him to soften? How do I get him to receive what it is that I'm talking about? If it was me, if I'm honest, I would have seen that they were fishermen. I would have seen that they were washing their nets. I probably would have even seen that the baskets were empty. But I dare say I wouldn't have noticed anything else to do anything else about it. I think so often we're the same. We get so busy. We get so busy doing what it is that we're doing. We're so busy outworking what it is that we're trying to do in our lives, in our jobs, in our family life, in our whatever it is, that we see things, but we don't take that extra step further to notice something different. January 7th was the first Sunday back here at church. Sage and I weren't here. We were in Shepparton ministering in another church. But I do know this, it was wet. It was raining. It was pouring rain. And Ben and Vanessa Hibwell, they were on welcome on January 7th. And they were welcoming people as they got from the cars to the building. And it was wet and it was raining, wasn't it, Ben? Yes, it was. And how many of you realize that if you were there that morning, that you would have seen that it was wet because you were to drive in your car and you saw that you had to turn the windscreen wipers on? Like, it's not rocket science. Everyone saw that it was wet. Everyone saw that there was rain. But Ben and Vanessa saw that it was raining, but they noticed something. See, there's a difference between seeing and noticing. Like, seeing just observes, oh yeah, it's wet, but noticing sees something a little bit different. They saw that it was raining, but they noticed this, that people were getting wet from their cars to the building. And so what they did was they found an umbrella. I think they were given an umbrella by Dave Ferris, is what I've been heard from the story. Is that correct? Yep. Okay, fantastic. They got given an umbrella and they started heading out to people's cars and ushering people with an umbrella back to the building. They themselves got soaking wet, but for the best part they could do, the people getting from their cars back to the building were dry. What was it? They didn't only see that it was raining, they noticed that people were getting wet and like, I am going to do my all to do something about it. Why? Because we're better off together. We're better off with people in our lives that see and notice that we're getting wet. We're better off with people in our lives that are trying to cover us from what is happening at the time. We are better off with people in our lives that actively go out of their way to be present and to care for us. You know what people know, like see about everyone else? What's wrong with them? Do you know what people know about themselves? What's wrong with them? And I get that some of you think like this, and I know that I think like this sometimes. That no, I don't think that person knows what's wrong with them, therefore it's my responsibility to go and tell them what is wrong with them. I don't think that they know that what they're doing isn't right, that what they're doing they shouldn't do, so therefore it is my responsibility to go and tell them that what they're doing isn't right, it's wrong, they shouldn't be doing it, insert whatever blanks that you want to insert. And this is the statement that some people make is like, it's just my job to be the prickly person in that person's life. And so that's the statement that we end up coming with. And my job to do life with that person is to be the prickly person in their life. Anyone had that person say that to you? Or is it only me? I've had people come up to me like in different settings like, my job in your life is to be the prickly person in your life. I'm like, no. So in week 4 of this series, we're talking about that. We're talking about prickly pears. And it's really important to have prickly pears in your lives because prickly pears confront you and prickly pears challenge you and prickly pears are supposed to do that. But in week 2 and 3 gives a whole lot more context. So next week, what we're talking about is vulnerability. We're meant to create a space, do life with people in such a way that encourages, that invites them to be vulnerable with us. In week 3, what we're looking at is the thing that keeps them from wanting to be vulnerable, and that is generally shame. And the antidote to shame is something called empathy. And unless you create a space where you do life with people in such a way that they feel comfortable to be vulnerable with you, that you lead out of a place of empathy, you have no right to be a prickly pear. So that's the context of what we're looking at as we move through the course of the next couple of weeks. The truth is this, that people around you see what's wrong with you and people around everyone else see what's wrong with them. Those people know what's wrong with them. It's not always our responsibility to say it. In fact, Peter picked up on what was wrong with him. So Jesus sends him out, throw your nets off, they're struggling to drag and pull the nets back in to bring all the fish back in. And it says this, when Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and he said this, he said, "Oh Lord, please leave me because I am a sinful man." I am a sinful man. Peter knew what was wrong with him. The people in your life already have people generally telling them what's wrong with them. I know some people don't always share it. Some people are very blatant in sharing it. The people in your life have people telling them what's wrong with them. The people in your life know what's wrong with them. I dare say the people sitting in the boat knew what was wrong with Peter. If you've read the Bible and you've gone through the life of Peter, you'd probably know that this guy has a lot to say. He has foot and mouth disease. He says things out of turn that he shouldn't say. He's kind of arrogant and pig-headed and like a high opinion of himself. I dare say the people in the boat knew what was wrong with him. And Peter clearly knew what was wrong with him. But I love what Jesus does. This is how Jesus shares with us the context of what we do on how we lead people in a growing relationship with Jesus, how we disciple people, how we build people, how we lead people. And it's just with 3 words. 3 words. His comment is, "Come, follow me." What he's saying is, come and do life with me. He doesn't say, hey, Peter, you need to clean all this up, and then you can come follow me. In the face of everything that's wrong with you, the sin, the ... I just want you to come follow me. Come do life with me. Jesus' discipleship strategy, Jesus' strategy of leading people in a growing relationship with the Father started here. Come follow me. Then out of that, he had opportunities to share with people the love of God, to share with people about what God had in store for them, at times to confront them on where they were getting it wrong. But it all started from this point of, you just get to come follow me. I'm not asking you to clean it up first. I'm not asking you to get anything right first. I'm not asking you to believe the right theology. I'm not asking you to believe any like that. I am just asking you to come follow me. This was his discipleship strategy. And what I find so fascinating about Jesus' discipleship strategy is that Jesus ends up sending his disciples out to go and minister when they're still wrestling with whether Jesus is the Messiah or not. But we don't want to release people to serve unless they tick boxes as far as, yes, they believe this. Jesus is like, I just want you to come follow me. We're working that stuff out in the process because we are leading people in a growing relationship with Jesus. And at some point, if we get close enough, we're going to have disagreements on theology. If you get close enough to me, we're going to have disagreements on theology. You might be right, not me. We are leading people in a growing relationship with Jesus. And on top of that, he sent people out that one he knew very well was going to betray him, but he still sent him out. He sent people out, and when they came back, they're like, I want to burn this town down because I'm not happy with them. That was James and John. He sent people out that weren't perfect, that didn't have it all together, and his discipleship strategy was just this: come follow me. We'll work this out on the way of building a relationship together and leading one another in a growing relationship with the Father. And some of you might be thinking, like, what's this got to do with me? Like, isn't like leading people, connecting people, growing people in a relationship with Jesus, isn't that like the church leadership responsibility? Paul says it like this when he's in his second letter to the Corinthian church. He says, for Christ's love, he says, compels us. We should be, if you're a Christian, you should be compelled by this, compelled by Christ's love, because we are convinced that one died for all, being Jesus, and therefore all died. And that he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him, being Jesus, who died for them and was raised again. So from now on, he says, we regard no one from a worldly point of view, though we once regarded Christ this way, but we do so no longer. Therefore, he says, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old is gone, and the new is here. And this, he says, is from God who reconciled us. That word reconciliation, reconciled, means restore friendly relations. What did Jesus do? He restored friendly relations between us and God. Restored friendly relations between us and God. Not highlighted everything. There was meant to be a wedge between us and God. Restored friendly relations. I'm here to restore friendly relations. The pinnacle of that is what? Is the cross. And so all this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. In other words, what he's saying is this, that the reconciled become the reconcilers. If you have been reconciled, your job now is to be a reconciler. If you realize this, that God has, or Jesus has, restored friendly relationships between you and Jesus, or between you and God, your job now is to be the one doing the same thing. This doesn't mean that you're perfect. Being reconciled between you and God doesn't mean that you are perfect, that you don't have problems, that you don't have sin in your life. It means this, that you're on a journey of allowing God into your life and dealing with all that muck and dealing with all that junk. And what you get to do in return is you get to be the one that is the reconciler for someone else. And that looks like the people, some of them sitting next to you. Some of the people sitting next to you are struggling with whether they've been reconciled back to God. Some of the people sitting next to you are wrestling with their relationship with God. Some of the people sitting next to you are hurting. We get to reconcile. We get to grow. We get to lead them. For some of it looks like the people outside of our churches, our lives. We get to people that are the conduit that connects them to a relationship with God. What I love about all of this, when it comes to leading people in a growing relationship with Jesus, being people that are actively or proactively doing life with people in a way that notices what no one else sees, is all it takes is 8 minutes. All it takes is approximately 8 minutes to change someone's day, to change someone's mindset. All it takes is for someone to be deliberately attentive for 8 minutes. And noticing what no one else sees. When you see that person is down, there's something missed, there's something wrong, that you don't just see it, that you notice it and you go and do something about it and you ask, like, hey, what's wrong? And you sit for 8 minutes, ask questions, get to know them. What's going on? How can I help? How can I invite you into my life where I actively help you, not just give you the ... This is what you need to do. Go on your merry way. How can I bring you into my life, support you, encourage you, help you? How can we support one another? 8 minutes. I heard this story this week. This is where I got this from this girl. The story went, like, she shared this story with me where she came out of a shop, nothing big. She came out of the shop and she saw this individual, this young person, and they were smoking. And you're like, who cares? Like, walk out of shops all the time and see someone smoking. Like, there's nothing to notice there. There's nothing to see there. There's just someone smoking. But what she saw that this person was wearing a high-end sports jacket. And something just twigged within her. She thought, like, why on earth is this person wearing this jacket and they're puffing down a cigarette? Like, this doesn't make sense, because that jacket, you can't buy it. You can't just come buy it. You have to earn it. It's a high-end sports jacket. As far as this person is obviously really high-end sports individual, and like there's something not right there. So she paused and she asked, like, why on earth? And I get that not all of you are as nosy and pokey and confronting as this individual was. But she asked this question, why on earth are you smoking and you're wearing that jacket? I'm not going to go into the story because the story is personal. I don't think you'd ever... No. But I'm going to fill you in with some of the details, but no, not the intricate details. I know you want to know. The problem is it's the World Wide Web. There. What she got to know and discover and find out was what was happening in this individual person's life. What she got to find out is where this person came from, and she came from an elite sports level, Olympic elite sports level. And she found out all the junk that was going on in her life and where she was at. Didn't find out the full story of it. But what she got to do was invite this person into her life and basically ask, hey, you come and join me in this thing that we can do. Are you interested in this? I'm not sure. Do you want to try it? Yes, I'll try it. And she invited this person into her life. And what came out, period of time afterwards, what this person was doing when they're sitting outside the store smoking, was planning, and I'll let you read between the lines, of whether life was worth it. And what ended up happening was she invited this person into her life and saw her life completely transformed and slingshot back into the direction that she came from and back into an elite sports area, because she gave this person 8 minutes of time. All it takes is for us to not just see, but take the moment to notice the people around us and to give them 8 minutes. It may seem minuscule, but you've got no idea what 8 minutes can do of just talking, noticing, and inviting. So this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to do. We're going to head out and we're going to share communion together. Outside in the barbecue, we're going to eat. Just realize this, so that's what communion is. It is communing together. The body of Christ communing together around a meal. So we're going to head out and we're going to do that in a second. But this is what I want you to do. As you're engaging and as you're doing that, I want you to find 3 people. Everyone say 3 people. 3 people. If you're not from this church, find 3 people. If you don't like anyone here and you're not from this church, think of 3 people and send them a text message. You can do the same thing. Find 3 people, and I want you to do this. I want you to ask them this question. Would you like to join us or me for dinner? Would you like to join us? Would you like to join me for dinner? You can insert lunch, you can insert coffee, you can insert breakfast. I don't care. It can be whatever. But invite people into your life. How do we lead people in a growing relationship with Jesus? We do life with people. How do we do life with people? We lead them, we connect with them, and we engage with them simply by taking the time to notice what no one else sees and be proactive at trying to engage with that. And being the type of person that anyone that comes in my life is better off because they encountered me, because through me they encountered Jesus. This is important for this reason. No one will feel seen by God, whether they're a Christian or not, and they're just in a broken state. People won't feel seen by God until they feel noticed by God's people. That's our responsibility, not just mine, not just a leadership. It's our responsibility. Take the time to notice people. This is what I want to encourage you to do. We're better off together. We are better off together, so do this. So do life with people. Invite them in. 3 people. Would you like to do dinner with me, with us, however that looks? And so we're going to leave that there for week 1 of Better Together until we can catch up again next week. And we're going to continue it on as we look at transparency and vulnerability. But hey, let me pray. Let me bless the meal, let me bless the food, and bless the conversations. And then head out and you can feast, you can eat, you can confront Kevin about everything you want to know about the school. Because, hey, if you've got kids, you're better off with that school in your life than without. We are better off together. We are better off with the teachers in this room than without, because we are better together. So, Father, I want to say thank you that you came to build relationship with us. And Jesus, I want to say thank you that you pursue us, even when we don't pursue you. You pursue us even when we've got junk and sin and mess coming out of our lives everywhere, Father, that you still pursue us because you want to build relationship with us. God, I want to say thank you that not one of us corners the market on what a relationship with Jesus looks perfectly like, and that we're all growing in that, me chiefly. God, I want to pray that you help me and confront me and challenge me to grow in that relationship. And not just that, but to bring people on the journey with me. And God, I want to pray for every single person here that we are deliberately doing the same thing. Engaging with people, leading people, connecting with people, loving people. And so God, I want to pray that as we head out and as we commune together and as we share a meal together, God, I want to pray that you bless this meal, Father. And I want to pray that as we're eating it, we're reminding of why we're doing this. We're communing together because you communed with us, God. And so, Father, I want to pray over the conversations that we're about to have. I want to pray over the meal that we're about to have, and I pray that you bless it to our bodies and the conversations to our spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, so head out. Grab hold of the teachers, encourage the teachers, and feast and eat. And we'll see you all here next week. Most of you again.
Some days it feels like radio silence, place in my mind in spaces it shouldn't be. And then you break through the lies, keep turning my eyes to the face of all that I need. And you kill the static.